It's like a nursing
You got the
home or
permit. It's not my job to read your permit.
It's in like.
It's your job to tell me what your permit is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're gonna.
Yeah.
My graduation ended up having to go in the backpacks.
Yeah, it's a,
None of us are take.
TCQ is an interesting, the air group is totally different from the water group, from the wastewater group. And then when you get into the waste, dirt and waste group, that just really goes crazy.
So you're like,
Because
holy crap.
federal and state fight each other, and then there's even state regulations that fight
Yeah.
some of the state regulations.
You're not the only one. You look on 2004, the state highways.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Of course you can.
Okay.
It's
Glasses on.
She's got her husband.
12. Yeah, 12.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 p.m. We will be calling the Board of Adjustments meeting to order. I'd like for everybody to stand for the invocation and the pledges of allegiance.
Let us pray. Holy Father, we ask your blessing upon the proceedings tonight, on all those present, on all those that were unable to attend tonight. We ask that you grant us wisdom and guidance and your protection. In your Son's holy name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please be seated. Okay. Let the record reflect that council members Kerry Langford and Councilmember Matt Yarborough are absent tonight. And so we'll move right on to public agenda. Approval of minutes from called meeting held July 11th, 2022.
Make a motion to approve minutes for called meeting held.
Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Mike Strawn. How do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Action regarding the variance request to allow construction of a carport to be placed within the setbacks located at 109 Austin's Court. Would you like to come up and speak on it?
Really? Do public speaking?
We in our driveway a lot and is being damaged by the sun. I have to put it where by 4 feet. And my driveway is shorter than most because of where I live on the cul-de-sac. So that's why we're applying for this.
Okay. Do we have any questions? I believe in
Yes, sir.
yes, and we do have the drawing that goes with it,
Yes,
There's
sir.
images.
or images that goes with it.
There's already a concrete slab there.
Yeah.
Do we have
Do we
any,
want to put the images of
Oh, yeah.
anybody? I don't know if anybody wants to.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike, go ahead.
do we have any feedback from the neighbors?
I sent out 6 notices. I received 2 back today, actually. Both were approvals.
We spoke with all the neighbors. They said yes to us in person, so they knew the letters were coming. Our main concern, of course, is our immediate neighbor to the right of us, which we feel it would impact her the most.
Which neighbor is that?
Miss Teresa
Okay.
Sabla.
So they were my yes.
Thank you.
She emailed me today with a yes.
Okay.
I was just making sure it was them.
I call her Miss Teresa, sorry.
Yes.
All right.
And there's already a fence there in between
Yes,
like
sir.
the neighbors and
Yes.
so I mean it's already hidden, obstructed or had to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I looked at the wider view on the one, and you're right, your driveway is pretty short. I don't know how you can fit.
Yes, ma'am. I could have got you a better aerial photo from work.
Oh,
but
you're
I-
fine.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it looks good. Any other questions or comments?
How high is it gonna be? You probably have it in here. How tall is it gonna be?
That I'm unsure of, we're just getting like maybe a 10 by 10, 10 by 12. But the
So you
height,
don't have
I'm
it
not
designed
sure.
yet?
No, sir. We wanted to make sure this was approved before we talked to somebody about building it. You know how
Are you
long
looking
it
at-
is?
Don't we have to have a design first before it can be approved? No?
Are you looking at
I mean, for like the
a
permit, but that's not what this is.
Okay.
bought
Yeah.
one that you might
She's
buy,
just-
say
the variance is
like,
to
that they have
encourage
out here on the
setback.
sides of the highways? Or are y'all looking for actually building one?
Yeah, we're actually gonna, yes, sir.
'Cause it
No, I
would-
don't want just a Lowe's type.
Okay.
It'll have you windstorm certified.
I was
and
gonna say, it
everything.
would have to get
Absolutely.
permitted anyway, so
Right.
you'll handle all the, okay.
Yeah, they just need the approval to just be that close to the fence. It'll follow all other zoning.
Can you attach those letters that you received to the minutes?
And this is a R1 residential district, correct?
Yes, sir.
Any comments or motions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance request to allow construction of a carport to be placed within the setbacks located at 109 Austin's Court.
Okay, let the record reflect that Councilmember Johnson made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let the record reflect that Councilmember Strawn seconded the motion. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strawn, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion carries. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. So, Board of Adjustments, that looks like this meeting, 2 minutes from now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Pretty close
We
to
will adjourn the Board of Adjustments meeting, and in about 2 minutes, we will call to order the Planning and Zoning meeting.
Yes, Trish, just keeping an eye on the money spender, keeping a close eye on the money spender.
Be quick with me.
You don't want to let him wander too far off.
Kirsten gets back, we'll get started. Okay, let's call this meeting to order, the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. And that will be at 6:10 PM. Do we have any public, no? Well, that's Board of Adjustment, check
He's got
the,
to give that sheet.
no public comments, so let's move on to consent agenda. Approval of minutes from called meeting held June 13th.
Make a motion to,
On the floor by Councilmember Johnson. Have a second by Councilmember Escalante. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
aye.
Councilmember Strawn, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante. Aye. Discussion and action items. Discussion regarding current.
Mayor, council, this was requested we bring this forward to maybe draw a parallel between some of the specific R4 single-family, semi-rural type situations, to draw a parallel between existing ordinance and the current HOA rules that are out there now. And we wanted to provide opportunity with P&Z and with Oakwood Shores to maybe close some of those gaps if possible, or look at anything that we may be in disagreement on, especially since R4 is, as it stands right now, only in one area of the city. And we want to provide that opportunity for some feedback to see if there's anything we can do to help with the situation, if there's any ordinances that we want to match better with existing HOA guidelines, or vice versa. So we brought this to P&Z because I think this is really where this belongs for this discussion, is to start here.
All right. Any council member discussion, or do you have any questions for the homeowners, for the HOA, or?
On the HOA side, having a, Josh Strawn, I'm with, Oakwood Shores. But on the HOA side, if we have a liaison with the city so we can bounce back and forth, maybe Ms. Tyner or whoever, we're still researching our documents. We're trying to find stuff inside the city's code and ordinances also. And it's going to take a little bit of time to match them up and see what works. But we're well into the process of that. So is there a contact?
Yeah, you can contact me. This was specifically for the R4 zoning, and that's really what we were looking at. Is there was a give and take on setbacks, easements, and this type of things, and we just want to provide that opportunity for discussion, because these really should not take place behind closed doors. These should take place in public. And my fear or my trepidation about this is these negotiations need to happen in this forum,
Right.
because we have so many people that are board members and council members, and any agreements that are made or pushback, that should happen here. So we want to provide that opportunity now, so it happens in front of everybody.
So are we looking at building codes and
In-
easement codes, or are we looking the whole codes? of
Anything
Richwood?
in R4.
Okay.
Yeah, anything in R4 that, what I would like to see, and I think what staff would like to see is if we can draw parallels between our ordinance and HOA guidelines, I think it will eliminate some confusion with people who are building in Oakwood Shores, to where there's not an us against them or them against us type situation. Unfortunately, some things can't be changed. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. But if we can adjust some of ours, or the HOA can adjust some of theirs to create a more cohesive zoning ordinance, because it's only y'all.
If you give us a little bit more time, maybe schedule something for next Planning and Zoning Commission, and we'll review a little bit more, and we'll have it to you all.
If y'all want, just let me know when you're ready, and we'll schedule it then.
That's perfect.
That way, like I said, I just want this process to take place in this setting.
Open conversation.
Yeah, emails
perfect.
between staff members is not going to work, because inevitably the finger pointing starts.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
to happen.
that's actually a lot better.
Yeah.
But So just get with you if we have
Sure.
any questions about the code or the
Yes.
ordinances and stuff like that. We'll
Yes.
get it all cleaned up.
But I think it's not only just the setback issue that we experienced a couple months ago, the 25 versus 15.
Yes.
That there's a discrepancy. There's a lot of other ordinances that not only are city ordinances, but state safety ordinances,
Yes.
like for fences for
Pools, yeah.
There's a house out there right now that, hey, they had it in a barn, that's great, but they had a pool and now their pool is not fully enclosed. Well,
Yeah.
according to state regulation, that can't be there. Anybody can walk into that pool off the
Yeah.
street and drown. So I think there's got to be, the city can email the gentleman, the HOA can email the gentleman as much as they can, but he's not going to pay attention. He's like, okay, you're
Well,
just an HOA.
On that front, if the city is notified, we can most certainly take action. We did just down the street this way. We cited them immediately.
Okay.
So who does code enforcement driving around looking for these things? Do we have anybody?
Not at this time, not full-time. we have a clerk that does
Okay.
twice a
Part-time.
week when she can. But if anybody, citywide, if you notice something, if you see something, say something. That way, because we can't see everything. But issues like that, especially health and safety, we definitely, to get the permit, they had to have had it. Just because it's not, we don't put that in our code of ordinance because it is state law. So we don't have to. But yeah, definitely let us know on that.
And also on building, we have certain levels you got to go through before you get permitted to build. One of them we haven't had, and I think we're having them in our, we're going to talk about it at our next meeting, is having approval before you start building your pad. There was one we caught that was like, it was like 6 feet. It was high. They were using the wrong marker, and we had to go in there. Is that something the city would like to consider whenever they ask permission from y'all?
Like telling them how high they can go?
Not how high they can go, but having the pad approved before, so to make sure it isn't lower.
The form-based code should cover that.
Okay.
When they do the form survey.
Yeah.
Before concrete's poured, yes, that should show it.
Okay. Because on some of the forms, it wasn't showing final elevation or anything
Yeah.
else, so.
Okay.
Just what the elevation was.
Yeah, that's
We
a
had
good-
to ask them for
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll take a look at it, we'll get everything, hopefully we can schedule something next meeting. We'll have a little bit more.
Yeah, just like I said, let me know and we'll bring it back.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
I
John.
was kind of curious how the citizens over here been informed like of these meetings other than just the generic, city council meeting, this and that. I mean, I
It's-
think if everybody knew if there was possibly an option to come here and voice their opinions about, maybe getting more room to wiggle stuff around in the
So
land.
prior to any change, like before any action's taken, we will have public hearings, which will be posted in the paper before any action can be taken. But these agendas are always posted 72 hours ahead of meeting as per state law.
Right, I just feel
And
like there'd be people probably here voicing their opinion. I mean, if they.
I just don't have any way to like specifically let those people know that that something's happening. We post it online and on the front as state law requires.
Yeah, the meeting,
The agenda was posted on Wednesday,
yeah, it's
so.
posted on our website, it's posted on the Facebook site. There's plenty of places to find it.
Yes, sir.
I just don't, if I had a way to, without using our emergency notification system, which it's kind of an abuse of that if I do that. People will stop listening to it.
Okay, any other questions?
Hopefully, a future sign will say,
Yes,
council meeting.
if they give me that sign, it'll be on the highway.
Yeah.
Might even have an AM radio. I figured something out. That's it. Okay. So, we will close this meeting out. Yeah, I was going to tell you about that. We could get my AM transponder. Tune
Ready for it.
But if like dinosaurs, just throw them all out.
But you don't get
Anytime.
until they get the license.
So not the permit, just the license. So I got another yeah. Thank goodness.
Okay, let's call the regular council meeting to order.
Skip all the extras, I forgot to take them all.
That's okay. Yeah, I've got them all. Looks like we have no public comments, so we'll move, and we've already done the call to order and everything above that. So let's move on and approve.
Just make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Perfect.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion made by Councilmember Johnson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second by Councilmember Escalante. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries. Minutes are approved, or consent agenda is approved. Discussion and action items. Item A, discuss and consider adopting ordinance 22-495, amending Appendix C, fee schedule of the Code of Ordinances, adding a replat fee schedule.
So I'm bringing you this, maybe 2017, 2018, we amended our ordinance to, and it alludes to a change in the fee schedule for replats, but it was never added to the fee schedule. So we've been using fees from 95. So just for an example, the plat we did for Marquis of Magnolia ended up costing the city over $700, and they paid $140 because of the ordinance, how it is. So I have amended the fee schedule to be in line with what the county charges us. There's a little bit of room in case their rates change. It's not exorbitant. They charge me $26 per lot, per tax certificate, and I put $30 just to kind of cover any additional costs. So I just need to get that added so we can just have a straight pass through and not take a loss.
Okay.
But you said, the example you said was how much more?
So
did it
right now, the
cost?
way it is, we charge $100 the base replat fee plus $2 for every lot. So general replats are $104 because it's 2 lots going into 1 or 1 lot going into 2. So I've never really, and I would end up paying, I would pay over that when I would file it at the county because I would file 2 copies of the plat plus for each lot they would charge me $26. But it wasn't until we filed this big neighborhood replat that it dawned on me how much we were off from what the county's charging for this. The fees that we charge was set in like 95, so we haven't changed those fees. It looks like we meant to in 2017, but it never got put into a dollar amount never got put into the fee schedule. So this just covers the cost of filing.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 22-495, amending Appendix C fee schedule of the Code of Ordinances, adding replat fee schedule.
Okay, I have a motion made by Councilmember Johnson. Do I have a second?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion is carried. All right. Item B, public hearing and action on FY 2022 and 2023 proposed budget of the Crime Control and Prevention District, or CCPD.
So this is, and they approved this budget. We have to hold another one, just approving what CCPD has approved. And this has not changed since it was last presented to you in our budget workshop. This is the same budget.
Anyone has any questions on that?
I might have some questions, just on, $1,000 and I've never seen it.
I'd say I don't we don't currently have a city-owned, Chief has a bike, but he owns it, and he does do bike patrol.
It's under tools.
Under Tool 605, 220
The last
tools.
one.
It should be a $19,000 proposed budget, $14,000 for a radar trailer, $2,000 for bike patrol.
And I believe it's to get that patrol up and running, because some of the officers had expressed interest in it. But I think because it's not a city-owned bike, I think, is there liability in them riding? I'm not sure.
on that. But this is what CCPD presented to me. Chief isn't here.
I think he just stepped out.
Talking in particulars, but I do know he would like to get another bike.
But there's already been bike patrols on a non-owned city bike.
All right.
I believe the bike was,
It's his
it's his bike.
Yeah, it's his bike.
So, for neighborhoods and town events and that type of thing.
Yeah, and I believe, I'd have to go back and look at the CCPD budget, but I believe this was budgeted once before. And we had a hurricane or storm and the money got used for disaster recovery. But I believe this was approved once before.
I believe the first year I was here, it got overlooked.
Yeah.
Trying to be as fiscally conservative as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it of course comes from CCPD funds, and they
That's what I was-
allocate it and how they have the board.
Yes, sir, Josh?
CCPD funds are still tax revenue, correct?
Sales tax.
Pretty much doubling community outreach for one event. Going from $5,970 in the year 2022 to $10,000 in the year 2023. 2020 was 908, 2021 was 410, 2022 was 4,754.
Several of the things, general fund budget, so where those same items went down.
General fund went down and
General
CCPD went up.
fund, and now CCPD is funding them.
I don't know, portable radar trailer. I know we've seen people racing that, to see how high they can get their numbers. About the officers, we get them ballistic plates. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen here. To combat this event would be really good. Ballistic helmets, updated patrol rifles. I know we talked about that flock license plate system. I contacted them. I have a contact number if you'd like it. We're looking at it in our subdivision. It's $2,000 a year, and it identifies the color's license plate, the color's car, and the license plate. So, no, it's could be a saving of $30,000 with some of these things. But I think this is something for CCPD and not City Council, right?
Right.
Okay.
This is a formality, they bring it, they present it to us, and we have to.
Okay. Any other questions?
I mean, council could choose to kick it back, correct?
Do we have any itemized for the travel and training? Because I see that we spent 4,000 last year out of the city's budget, and then they spent 4,000, so that's about almost 9,000, or right around 9,000 between the two, but still going up to 15 for travel and training. But there's no explanation as to what they're doing, and since most of the training is free or very, very minimal.
Going to be total CCPD funds. I just wanted to up it a little bit for any unforeseen training we may need.
No ideas like for specific trainings just yet. I just want to make sure that we're using tax dollars, even if it's sales tax, as wisely as we can, because most of the training is free or practically free, and most of them will come to you here locally. So I was just kind of curious, that seems like a lot. I mean, how many officers do we have?
Well, that go through training, 14.
14, so I mean, that's,
Because I have to train the reserves as well.
yeah, so it's a little over 1,000.
Well, if you want me to, I can provide you a list of all the training that we've done like this last year to give you some idea.
Yeah.
Like most of our training is done online.
Right,
And that
yeah.
training, I mean, there's a cost associated to that, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, that would be great, because just between the two, it looks like what you spent last year was around 9,000-ish, something like that, between the two budgets, and I was just kind of curious, if there was something specific.
right.
You know.
And some of that, like the training monies that we're using right now, is up and coming towards just towards the end of September.
So it'll make it right
Female
before.
law enforcement conferences coming up, and sending Nadia to that. I have the Tape It Evidence Conferences coming up, and Munley recently retired. So Elvita Garcia is going to be my backup evidence tech, so I'm going to have to send her to that training as well.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great, just so it's kind of written somewhere, that way in case someone sees, you know, just looking it over, like we're looking it over and see such a big jump, it'd be nice to
Sure.
kind of have a little note to the side that lets people know
Of course.
what it all is for.
Yeah.
Just helps with the transparency
You
part.
bet. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Do we have a training deficiency due to COVID?
No, because most of our training is done online, so
Okay.
I would say no.
Okay, any other questions? All right, do we have a motion to approve the budget?
Does this require a motion?
Yes.
The budget,
Have a second made by Councilmember Escalante. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries. Tax rate for the 2022-2023 fiscal year of 0.606810, which is revenue tax rate for the city of Richwood, to be adopted at a future meeting. Who would like to take that?
You want me to talk on this?
Yes, ma'am.
So, just a week or so ago, we got our potential tax rates from the county, along with our certified property assessments. So I'm happy to say that even the highest we can go is lower than last year, and we will still have an increase in revenue. So that's due to increased property values and new construction. We gave you one sheet that shows the no new revenue rate. That would be the rate that would bring us the same revenue that we're receiving this current fiscal year. And the portion of that that's maintenance and operation, which is general fund to run the city, is 0.473104. The debt rate, we cannot do anything about. It's what we need based on the assessed values to bring in the revenue needed to pay our debt obligations for the year. So that is fixed, 116,729. The voter approval rate will allow us to increase revenues by up to 3.5%. And so that will give us additional revenue while still reducing the tax rate to the citizens. Tonight, we are not voting on the tax rate that we're going to accept. What we're doing is saying this is the maximum we would possibly ask for. It's a record vote. It's required by law that we do this. But you are not voting to say this is what our tax rate is.
Correct. Any questions?
So where'd that number come from?
Which number?
0.606810?
From the county. They calculate the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate for us. And that is to pay our debt, plus give us 3.5% additional revenue from last year, which, considering inflation is, you know, a little higher than that right now, to ask for 3.5% more and still be able to reduce the tax rate, I feel is what we should do. We are not voting on that tonight, though. So. A new revenue rate, or not, I'm sorry, the voter approval shows revenue projected from the voter approval rate. When we vote on a budget, we are not voting on the revenue, because that's just a guess. The revenue is based the budget on that. So the 652,278 was the voter approval rate last year, and we went with that. The reason it's called that, the voters have not come in and voted. If we go above that, to do that. But that's what they call it, the last 2 years. Last 2 years, we've decreased our rate, so that's nice. Any other
So,
questions?
do we have any other questions or motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed tax rate for the 2022-2023 fiscal year of 0.606810 tax rate for the city of Richwood to be adopted at a future meeting.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilmember Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second made by Councilmember Strong. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion carries. My agenda here. There we go. All right, discuss and consider approving a resolution setting the date and time for public hearing for fiscal year 2023 proposed tax rate for September 12th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
This is just formality to set a meeting. We already have, it's already our council meeting. We just have to have a resolution and post in paper and do public hearing notices.
Make a motion to consider approving a resolution setting the date and time for the public hearing for FY 2023 proposed tax rate, 6 p.m.
Vote, ma'am.
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
All righty, let the record reflect that the motion carries. The date and time for the public hearing for fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget. Is that a repeat?
That's a repeat.
No, this is for budget. The other one was for tax rate.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Okay. For September 12th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Resolution, so we just need to pass this.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Can they both be at 6 p.m.? You got
It's
both?
going to be in the 6 p.m. meeting, so.
Okay.
You just have to do tax rate first.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution setting the date and time of the public hearing FY 2022-2023 annual budget for September 12th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Okay, let the record reflect Councilmember Strong's made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All righty, Councilmember Escalante has had the second, so Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion's carried. All right, item F. Discussion regarding the city's water usage from BWA or Brazosport Water Authority.
Council, this is here by council's request, and I tried to capture actual usage beginning in August of 2019 and running through July of 2022. I wanted to bring up a couple of overviews. You'll notice that May of 2020 amounts down. So, indeed, demand is part of the issue. We did not consistently see this until probably starting about September of 2021, and I think a lot of the issue is the balancing of chlorine residual throughout the city and turning on our wells manually. I know some of this is impact of me telling the guys, the Public Works crew, not to touch it, let it operate automatically, because a well that does come on automatically puts water into a 250,000 gallon elevated tank where chlorine residual is historically low. It has more influence on the west side of town than it does the east. We have done running of the wells to supplement. We've done it at different rates throughout this time period that you see on the spreadsheet. Currently, we are running We are running one well 2 days a week, one well 1 day a week, with one well remaining automatic on the SCADA system. And we definitely can't keep pace with 16,500,000 gallons a month. So the usage is an issue. We can up that, and we'll have to give that a try. We're just running risk of using the only two water producing, or pieces of water producing infrastructure we have, except for ground storage.
Is this just the meters that we're reading at the houses, or is this the meters that you're reading at the source? Or where does this reading come from?
This comes from the well meters and ground storage of the South Water Plant and BWA's.
And what's the difference between that and what the residential meters are showing? Looking for loss, how much are we just?
Loss runs generally between 18 and 25%.
But, I mean, have you charted that out too to see if our losses are going up?
We are working on that, but no, I don't see that trend. We're working more on trying to track that loss, but I don't see that trend in looking
Because my
through.
concern is that maybe some of this use is loss.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
And
But-
as the loss increased over time, or is it steady state? That's my question.
It has increased, it has planed, and now it is beginning to decrease.
Okay.
What we attribute to that, which would be maintenance flushing, 90% of it. But going through it, looking at that aspect of usage, Mike, there's a lot of things that were not considered. We had to calculate usage through some of the city meters that weren't being looked at. There's no system of checks and balances for the fire department and what they use from city hydrants, which could be a fairly big impact, especially in drought times such as this. And the flushing, which we are tracking.
But it would be a good KPI, just if we could sum those meters up that we do have to see if they're going up or going down or staying the same.
And we have. July was the first month that we got them all, everyone that we know of in the city that's serving city facilities is accounted for now.
We didn't have some meters on those, Mike. We do now.
Okay. I think it's something that would be worth tracking.
We're doing
So
it.
like,
For sure. Yes,
so
sir.
like maybe take 1 day without flushing and then just see if there's any loss that happens in that 1 day that's not accounted for somewhere? Is that kind of what you're, or?
Yeah, but I was.
So, and I think one of the main things is we began to see this trend start to come up. Like I say, when we got into 2021, but we also saw a shift between 2019-20 and 2021, where you started to see our wells usage ran about a 45%, 55 wells to BWA, moved to more of a 40-60, and now we're at about a 35%, 75%. Why that continues to drop, we do not know. But with regards to that, I have contacted Mercer Controls and told them that this is a trend that cannot continue, that we cannot keep it under control physically, turning the wells on, operating them by hand, and ask Cheryl Mercer to investigate options to try to limit what we take from BWA. And there is a way, it just comes with the price tag, and that price tag I'll be getting back with you guys. I was a little bit more eager to get the North Water Plant online to see how it behaved before we make any decisions such as that, because I don't feel it's going to be a cheap fix.
So we only have the 2 wells right now that are contributing?
That's correct, and we only have one running automatically.
Okay, so but once the one in the north comes online, this will help some, correct?
Yes, we'll have 2
That's what
running
we're looking
automatically. So in theory, you should take your water 1/3 of the time, 1/3 of the time, 1/3 of the time.
Okay, so,
But
and
speaking-
when is that, December-ish? Are we
We
still
hope.
looking at December-ish for that one?
We hope supply chain is dictating the timeline there, and we can keep our fingers crossed.
Well, Cliff, imagine from May through right now, June to August, or June, July, you can probably count a lot of that extra water to tanker operations has been either out at the dump, or for the fires out at the dump, or the fires out off of County Road 595. 'Cause
Yeah.
they've had a bunch of fires out there, a bunch of tankers running.
And with regards to the fire department, respect to Clint, I have reached out to him. He said he can't give me any of the data that I need to show that. And it's obviously in here, we know it's in here and mixed within the 14 to 16 million gallons
Yeah.
between May and July of 2022.
Yeah, I just figured put that out there so everyone would know that, we've had the last 3 months have been big fire months, and
Sure.
and a lot of tankers have been coming in and filling up because we're the closest water supply that they can get to. So they'll come in, fill up, and then go back out and supply the trucks.
And those amounts are also technically usage amounts. They're not waste. They account for it, Texas Water Development Board, on their surveys and their loss audits for firefighting, hydrant flushing. They don't consider that waste as long as we can document it and track it with some degree of efficiency and accuracy. So,
Cliff, do you think three of the biggest spikes and variations don't occur during this summer drought? They're occurring in October and January. October, there was a deviation of 131,000. And then in January, there's a deviation of 157,000 versus compared to June, which was our highest month, there was a deviation of 161,000 compared to the prior year. And all of that tends to happen when the BWA usage is over about 78%. If you look at the October number, we're 323,000 over, but the year prior, we were at 192 daily usage. So, and that wasn't a drought. We were raining like crazy back then in January as well. But I'm just curious to see if maybe every time we get a lot of water from BWA, we have a huge variation. And so
right. And I think
I'm just seeing a correlation that we
also
have some loss between BWA and us.
Right, and I also think what you're seeing is the BWA daily average is a direct correlation between how much we run our wells. And in October specifically, if you notice that well 5 is 0. That well that's connected into SCADA running automatically was down that entire month for service. So that was a contributing factor, and you can also see that we got about almost 2 million trying to compensate with the other well. But then again, it's funny, even when we do that, when we don't have well 5, it seems to not evenly distribute water or chlorine residual the same.
But then on contrary, in January, you only had 1% usage of well 6 and 2 million gallons in well 5, but that was the second highest deviation. Once again, over the 78% threshold for BWA, we had a 157,000 gallon difference. So there's always, when we get a lot from BWA is when we have our biggest spread. So I feel like there's a lot of loss between BWA and us, that the more that we rely on them, the more we're going to have these high water consumptions.
Yes, I agree. And we will, I say the only thing we know to do now is to substitute BWA with our existing wells. We get the North Water Plant online, we'll do that to the best of our ability, and continue pursuing Mercer controls for an option. I don't want to, I'm sorry, I don't mean to backtrack. On well 5 in June of 2020, we started noticing 0 days, 0 pumping. So, and it comes not so sporadically, not once a week on average. And that started in July of 2020 and persists all the way through today. We don't understand why our amounts were probably, if you look up in the earlier months, are from August 2019 through about, let's say May of 2020, that well 5 pumping rate was on average, probably 1 million gallons higher per month than what it is now. Now, we researched some of the documentation, and indeed we saw the same thing with the water reports. The numbers consistently dropped, can drop daily. We started seeing zero amounts, and we have no explanation for this whatsoever. It's an anomaly we cannot figure out. It's like something was changed in the system, but nobody can identify what has changed. I can. Mercer Controls can, which are the only ones that have serviced this system for the past 25 years. So we're working to figure that out. And if nothing was changed, Mr. Mercer believes it could be due to demand. I'm having a hard time understanding that, but he said that it could be due to demand, and it might be something that the system is just, that's how it's handling it. And we'll just have to compensate with a shut-off switch for BWA, possibly. We use our 235 per day, and it kills the site.
Yeah, they can do that from the control room. They can BWA can set their water, or the amount to us, and cut it off at 235.
Well, they
if we
can,
want.
but we have to, because if we continue to pump,
Right.
we pump that tank down, and it's not the best of ideas to get it that low. So they can, but we need to really control it on our
Right.
side. Is there any other questions I have for now?
I don't know, I mean, what are our options to help reduce water consumption? We're on a stage, what, 2, I believe, right, without restriction?
Well, we're on 3.
3?
I don't at all have the resources to police it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But that would possibly be what it would take. Because, obviously, or I think I could say with some degree of confidence, obviously, the restrictions are probably not applying to most people.
Historically, when you issue those, water usage actually goes up.
Right.
Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, at least in the interim period, everybody's trying to save their grass or trees or whatever, but there's a couple of different factors here that we're working through that Cliff drove home, but the biggest thing we're looking at right now is tracking city usage, flushing, and fire department. That's where we're going to try to track down our biggest on the user side, and then getting the SCADA issues brought back together when we bring the North Water plant online. But it's not as easy as turning one on and turning another on, because when we pump from far away, we lose chlorine residual. So we have to be able to maintain those chlorine residual. It's a balancing act with this water system, and hopefully when we get the North Water plant online, it will help some, as that's another source of chlorination. But it's baffling, to say the least, that we actually have a well that's just shutting itself down, and we don't know why.
At amounts a lot lower than what it used to for some unknown reason.
Does it have a low suction? Does it have a low suction cutoff switch on it?
No, it's a pretty cut and dry SCADA. The tanks get so low, something kicks on until they fill up, then it stops.
Right.
Tanks get so low, the next piece of infrastructure kicks on until it fills up.
Can I ask a crazy question? So I lived in Lake Jackson, and when I did, we had a water leak, and I had no idea what a water leak looked like in your own yard. I just had this patch of really, really green grass, that grew more than the rest of it, and it wasn't until later that they noticed that it was a leak. I mean, is there some way that we could put something out to the public, like on the page, that just says, if you notice anything odd, because obviously water bubbling up out of the ground is an obvious leak, but, with all the ground shifting and
Sure.
could it not cause,
Well,
I don't know what would cause.
I think some of it is, we've been battling, main leaks over the past month or so, but
But the big ones, of course, happen to.
yeah, it's actually a good idea. A public notice would probably be a good idea, just to reiterate to citizens to keep.
Have you running around like crazy?
No,
You
no,
know, I mean,
they notice the little
that's what we're here to
differences
do.
in their bills, so it's helpful.
maybe
when
it
they
would
do.
And it's on this side of the meter, you're gonna know.
was until
A few examples of things that you can see that could,
that could be a trick, like a red flag or something.
That's a good idea.
And maybe remind them that it'd be nice if they could not wash their cars on even days, even sides wash their cars on one of these days, and hot side streets, wash their cars on others.
Well, we
and
can use
water
the
their-
public notice to reiterate the restrictions stated within the draft contingency and maybe state that, you know, it is a citable or ticketable offense.
I mean, it takes all of us to do it, and it's not something, you know, it's not easy to find all of it, even if you've got everything metered.
I was gonna say, we don't expect you to go drive around and look at everybody's property and get out with this little stick and stick it in people's ground to see where it's soggy. I mean,
Yeah.
but,
We probably do more of it than,
oh, I imagine you do, but,
yeah, I'll make a note. I agree. Melissa, it's a good idea. Public notice.
You know, a few years back, I was on the Water for Brazoria County Committee, and they were even talking to folks about the amount of water they use when you still have it on when you're shaving. They even talked about just how much water. I had a person come in and explain to us how much water you could save just by turning the water off in between.
I'm doing my part.
there you go.
Appreciate you, Mike.
No shade.
No shave.
But, you know, anything that can be done to conserve the water, that's you know, what you can do. You do a little part, and believe me, it don't take much
We'll go a long
to
way.
help the situation.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Have any other questions? Okay.
Well, thanks, Cliff. All right, moving on. Capital improvements projects update.
Okay, so we have this evening North Water Plant. They're reviewing shop drawings and submittals. Contractor W.W. Payton has mobilized to the site and is doing grading work as we speak. I think we have a Teams meeting planned for Wednesday. They have submitted an alternate plan for the road for several different reasons. So we want to got into the process of designing a drive and a parking lot. And we want to make sure that we're honoring the geotechnical engineering that was done if we change anything. So that'll be coming up. The stormwater master plan, east ditch is in progress. The intersection to the east and head towards Ellis Park when they get to that point. The ARPA emergency generator, South Water Plant booster pumping station, the survey is complete for the South Water Plant. Design is ongoing. They're anticipating bid advertisement for the South Water Plant in January, and the generators will come after that. As you remember, we decided to go that direction, and that's all I have.
Any questions?
Cliff, can you update kind of briefly on what's going on at Oakwood Shores with the
Yes, sir. Thank you.
the concrete work, I mean, the asphalt work?
Yeah, we have started, as you might know, we have a lot of voids in the roads that have developed due to the drought, not just in Oakwood Shores, other sections of street and ones that have been newly constructed with the Bond Street project. We are working to close those gaps to keep the water off the subgrade. We are following some recommendation of a contractor that did some work here last year, but also engineers, not necessarily telling us what to do, but that they've seen this practiced. And right now it's sand to fill those voids, something that's flexible, and then crack sealant over that. We're running into a little bit of an issue. Some of those cracks out in Oakwood Shores, I think the worst part you would see would be on Amberjack, between Oakwood Shores Drive and Oakwood Trail. Some of those cracks are in excess of 2 inches and about 12 inches deep. So the width is really getting us. The crack sealer that we have to use, the cold application, we're having a little bit of time with it, but we also realize after we're laying down applications of this crack sealer that the road is moving within a week. We're getting further cracks, and it's further separating in those areas that we seal. So we're a little bit up in the air on exactly what to do. A hot application is not possible at this point in time. So we're not having the luck we wish we would in trying to seal off those cracks. And I don't really know what the future holds for those sections of road that are as badly cracked as they are. But we're trying to keep up with it, and it might be a point to where we actually double down with the contractor that that gets the crack sealing, whoever that might be. That we also rent a unit to cover some more ground, because what the initial bid that was presented to us covered all the newly constructed roads in Oakwood Shores and a couple of spots in Richwood. But Oakwood Shores is seeing it the worst. We did see that anything with a stabilized base is suffering worse than that of a flexible base, and it obviously has to do with rigidity of the road and moving to the ground, and we see results damage worse in those situations.
Do you think that when the ground gets wet, it's going to swell back?
Yes, sir.
Any of it?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know if it'll go all the way back. Like, it might come back some.
I think you're going to see a large return, a large enough when the soil rehydrates. It might be something we have to go back and treat again, but in my opinion, that's worth it as long as the roads don't fail.
Yeah.
Due to reduction of water to the subgrade.
I know, like in furnace refractory, you know, when it goes out, because it will when it's hot, it'll go out. But if it cracks and grows, it never comes back.
Right.
It'll grow again, but that ground's a little bit different.
Right. You know, we'll definitely see closing of these cracks. You know, they're never getting less what's already cracked. But the things that are 2 inches, I imagine once we start getting some rain, they're going to shrink back up to probably nothing. But that doesn't help me as of now.
All right.
We did notice spots where we treated it with sand, where the crack sealer did separate a bit. Water got in there and washed the sand to who knows where.
Yeah.
But it's not there anymore. So we're hustling as fast as we can to try to get it covered up.
Thank you, Cliff.
So I had a question real quick. We had talked a couple meetings back about the water tower possibly going there with the north plant, the north water plant. Is that been decided? Just wanted to make sure, because you know you hear people talk and all this stuff, and I didn't know if we had decided on that or if that was still kind of needed for a future discussion.
That is something for future capital projects, and we will be, I believe I told council, I'm going to be bringing it back to you guys in the next budget, the FY24 budget.
Or
2024? Yeah.
It's nice to be able to go back and say nothing's, or if yes, that is definitely how it is, just so we can.
No, I think from the engineer's standpoint, that is probably our best option.
Right.
Because we own the property. And there's minimal amount of boring and reconnecting and distribution, but no decisions have been made. That decision will be left to council solely.
Ideal was 2004 and 288 though, was it not? The most ideal location was in that
I think
that area.
Yeah.
I
know there was discussion between the two,
Yeah.
and then I just kind of heard a rumor, and then I thought, well, you know what, if I've got you here, I'm just going to make sure, no decisions have been made, but we had talked about it, and
Correct.
so we're going to talk more about it in the future. It's nothing.
No, not at all. There's just, they gave us 3 options, and because they gave us options, you guys get to make a decision on it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Cliff. All right, moving right along, let's move on to the city manager's report.
Mayor, Council, you have it in front of you. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Same as what's sent out.
Same it was Friday.
Oh, the officer out on leave, is he doing better, or do we know anything? Or the officer doing better?
She.
Okay, I didn't want to assume.
Well, no. We're back to another she, or he? We've had a run of them.
I'm telling you, it's been going around like crazy.
We have one she that's back and feeling much better.
One
Okay,
he
good.
that's out.
One she that's out and is still ill, and one he that's out and is still ill.
I tell you, it spreads so quick, especially when y'all work so close together. So I hope they're doing okay. I hope they get better soon.
Yeah, for the most part, there's a really bad headache and just really run down.
Yes. Well, I'm glad they're not getting the sore throat. That sore throat was a killer.
You're perfectly describing our budget cycle, Chief. A really bad headache and really.
All right. For no more questions, we'll move on to council member comments and reports.
I did
Mike, you
attend
got
the KRB meeting on the 2nd. It was a good meeting. And I'd like to, say thanks to all the first responders, but especially the fire department out there, because there have been a lot of fire calls out, and I know those guys out there in that bunker gear have got to be sweating, and not in a good way. So thanks out to all those guys and all the close team. Appreciate it.
Melissa? Roy?
Nothing new to report, no, sir.
All right, well, then that moves to the mayor's report. I think everybody knows, but I went, myself, Cliff, and Eric went to the TCQ meeting, public meeting last Thursday night to speak on the issues with the wastewater permit that's proposed off of County Road 220. And a lot of folks wonder why Richwood's involved. Well, number one, our ETJ, we have a lot of folks living there. We also have a lot of frontage on Bastrop Bayou and Oakwood Shores. And I spoke against the permit. There's a lot of reasons that I spoke against it. The biggest reason is, number one, the TCQ nor the folks that were there from Undine could or would answer a lot of the questions that the folks were asking, such as what's going to happen in an emergency, how are you going to handle it, do you have a plan? Do you, some kind of emergency plan? Has there been an environmental assessment made to understand what this will do to the Bastrop Bayou watershed? Bastrop Bayou is a tidal stream where it really doesn't have anything feeding it unless it's raining. And when the tide comes in and when there's not much rain, and it's really brackish. Sometimes it's fresh, but in the meantime, you start dumping 250,000 gallons of fresh water into a tidal stream, then you're going to really upset the flora, the fauna, the animals that lives there. So definitely there needs to be an environmental assessment to see, an extended environmental assessment to see what's going to happen when all of that water hits. It was like 300 people there, and they had a lot of good questions, and they made a lot of good points to the TCQ and Undine. I still have some letters to send out, which is going to discuss the sunset review from our state legislators of TCQ to see if we can get some things changed where when they have these public meetings, they will be better prepared to answer the questions or have someone there that can answer the questions. Other than that, that was pretty much it on that. And I would also like to say that our fire department, actually all the county fire departments, have been very, very busy the last several months. I would ask for anyone traversing 288 or coming through our cities not to drop your cigarette butts, simply because even though we've got a little rain, we're still having grass fires everywhere. These guys need a little rest. I know in the west part of the county they've had 3 days, or, well, yeah, 3 days straight of a major brush fire up in Damon. And it's pulled resources out of Fort Bend County and Brazoria County. We've had them back here at the dump, or the landfill, and we've had them off of County Road 595, which goes all the way, comes off of 523 and goes down back toward Bastrop Bayou. These things, when they get away from them, not only, you're putting people's houses and homes in harm's way, you're putting firefighters in harm's way. And when they have to drag all of the equipment from several parts of the county, then you're putting other parts of the county in harm's way. So be careful about what you're burning, where you drop your cigarette butts, and anything that you do that could cause a spark. Pulling off the side of the road, parking in a high grass area, just for a few minutes to make a phone call. It can start a grass fire. It can start a big fire. Lightning. We can't do much about that. Bottles thrown out can start a fire. So please be wary of what you do, and how you do it. And I think that's it. So, future agenda items. I think we've pretty much got those, but are there any others? Okay. We'll move on to adjournment. So we will adjourn this meeting at 7:27 p.m. Thank you all for coming.